What's going on, y'all? It's Foos here. Today, we got a fun one. We are going to cover the 1978 horror classic, John Carpenter's Halloween. Let's go. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back. Just want to hope everybody had a great Christmas and a happy new year out there. We're excited for 2026 here on the channel, and we got a lot of awesome stuff upcoming this year. 2025 was just a tune-up. We were just getting our toes wet. Got a lot of things planned for this channel, and I hope you guys are going to be along for the ride. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button for me, please go ahead and do that. But without further ado, we got a big one to talk about today. It's our boy Michael Myers. We're going to talk about Halloween. So, Halloween was the initial brainchild of independent filmmaker Irwin Yablans, along with financier Mustafa Akkad, who had this idea for a Halloween movie that they wanted just based on Halloween, simply titled Halloween. Not a lot of other details they had figured out for this one other than that. So they took this basic idea after seeing Assault on Precinct 13 and reached out to a young director by the name of John Carpenter. Now, Carpenter obviously would agree to come on and do this film, as we know, under the parameters, however, that he was given complete creative control over writing, directing, and scoring this film, which, thank goodness he got all that, because, man, it turned out awesome. Now, he would enlist a little bit of help along the way here. Deborah Hill, his then girlfriend, would sign in to help him with the writing process. And then he would bring in cinematographer Dean Cundy here to help him out in that aspect of the film. And those two would go on to have a pretty solid track record of movies together along the years, working on films like The Thing, Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, just to name a few there. Yeah, so great duo there. Anytime those guys got together on a film, you usually know it was going to be good. Now, Halloween would ultimately end up being released October of 1978. And we would get introduced here to a young Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, our main character, young, innocent babysitter who just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time on Halloween night. We would get the pleasure of seeing Donald Pleasance in this film as Dr. Sam Loomis, just an absolute driving force in these movies. You can't talk about Halloween without giving a lot of credit to Donald Pleasance. And then in this first film here, we would get Nick Castle portraying the Shape himself, Michael Myers. Now, a little bit of backstory on the film, kind of what we're dealing with here as far as plot goes. We are based in the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois, where this film's following Laurie Strode, a young babysitter, and her teenage friends on Halloween night as they are stalked and ultimately attacked by this escaped mental patient named Michael Myers, whom just happens to have a murderous childhood track record and a reputation amongst his doctor as being pure evil. Now, that doctor, Dr. Sam Loomis, would do everything in his power in this film to make sure that not only is everyone aware of the evil that Michael Myers is, but that he is also stopped at any cost. So, what's going to happen the night he comes home? We shall see. Now, first thing we're going to do on this one is we're going to dive into the abundant amount of positives that we've got on this film. Now, with this one, I did something a little bit different specifically for this movie here, where my positives are going to be broken into two halves. The first section of positives I'm going to designate purely just to shots in this film that I feel deserve credit and some sort of recognition. My second half of my positives will just be more my general positives on the film. So, first things first, we'll dive into those shots. First one I'm going to point out here comes right early on in the movie when Dr. Sam Loomis and the nurse are on their way to Smith Grove to pick up Michael Myers. It's a dark night, raining, stormy, and we get this shot when they pull up to the facility. In the headlights of the car, we see all of these white coats wandering aimlessly in a field outside of this mental institution, implying obviously that there's been a mass breakout of this facility. And that is a terrifying thought or concept to imagine being anywhere near a mental facility when there's a mass outbreak of inmates or patients. I don't know, maybe that's the better word. Just a terrifying thought and experience to be a part of. And that shot is done so well because you get the headlight shot of it, but then you also, as the car's pulling away and it goes dark again, we get a flash of lightning from the storm outside that does the same thing. And just both of those shots are incredible. And it sets you up early on knowing that this movie's not messing around. There's going to be some fucked up shit going on. But Moving on from that one, the next one I'll point out, a shot that I really love, is when we're first kind of introduced to Lori a little bit, and she's taking the keys to the Myers house to drop them off for her father. We see her walk up to the house, and from inside of the house, the camera shoots through the front door. We see Lori dropping off the key and going to walk away, and as she's walking away, in steps to the frame Michael, and he's watching her through the front door. Just that shot of him looking through the front door, looking at her as she walks away. Absolutely incredible. I love it. Every time I watch the movie, I'm dumbfounded by how awesome it is. And I feel like you could say that about almost any moment in this movie, but I'm trying to pare it down to just my absolute favorites here. Next one I'm going to point out, I'm going to kind of lump two together here because they happen so close in the movie and they're very similar in nature. So I'm going to kind of lump them together as one. So when we see Lori walking home with Annie and Michael is standing behind the bush, the classic headshot where then he just disappears. That, and then I'll couple that with the one where she's in her bedroom and she looks out the back window and she sees Michael standing there by the sheets just looking up at her, and then again just disappears. So those two shots I kind of lumped together in my mind a little bit, so I'm just putting them together here. I mean, if you've seen this movie before, those images are burned into your head. Those are absolutely iconic horror shots. Not just horror, those are iconic film shots. I mean, I feel the same way about almost basically any of these ones I'm discussing here. These aren't just standards for horror movies, these are standards for movies. But moving on from that one, the next one I'm going to point out here comes a little later in the movie once shit's kind of hit the fan and Lori goes across the street and she's found out that awful things have gone on over here. All her friends are dead. She's having a moment up against the wall where she's having a breakdown, and there's a door frame right there beside her, pitch black door frame, and we get that awesome sound effect and then just the slow appearance of Michael's face behind her. An absolutely chilling shot to watch. It gives you chills just thinking about it. Now, that one was pretty close in consideration as the favorite, but there was a couple that slightly above it for me. Coming in the next one I'll point out is when we see Michael through the window of Tommy Doyle's house, and we see him across the street and he's just standing outside of the house, and we get that awesome shot of him in this, with the house lighting kind of illuminating it a certain way. It's just a classic shot that you see reused so much. Again, another one that I would say is probably burned into your brain if you've seen this movie. But all of those to point out to say, my absolute favorite shot in this movie, and no pun intended, comes when Dr. Sam Loomis fires the first shot at Michael. He comes into the house, comes running upstairs, fires the shot at Michael, and Michael backs into the bedroom. And until Dr. Sam Loomis runs in, we don't really know the state of Michael yet. But when he walks in that door, Michael is not too far in the room. He's just standing there with this stoic presence, and you hear that breath. And it's a chilling visual, just absolutely terrifying sight when you see Michael in that moment. And then obviously he pumps 5 more shots in him and things go as they go. But that initial shot, just when he walks in the room and you see him standing there, and you're like, oh my God, he just shot him. This man didn't barely even moved. Everything that goes into that shot and what it represents for what Michael is just, it's pure terror for me. I mean, he's by far the most scary of the slasher villains, I think, when you really stop and think about it. I mean, I love Jason, I love Freddy, Ghostface, awesome, love all of them, but there is something uniquely terrifying about Michael, particularly in this first film, and yeah, that shot really sells it for me. So, moving on from just the shots alone here, we'll jump into some more general positives, and kind of piggybacking off that last point I made about Michael. That's my first positive for this one, is just the character of Michael Myers and how fucking terrifying he is in this movie as just the personification of evil, this motiveless killer at the end of the day, because until we learn more about his motives and his backstory in the later films, we have none of that to go off of in this one. As far as we know, he's just a kid that snapped, killed his sister, and based off of any analysis that we've ever had of him, is just pure evil. And that is a concept that is just terrifying. I mean, when you have this idea of a guy that is snapped and there is no rhyme or reason as to why, there's no motive as to where he'll strike next, what he's trying to accomplish, none of that. It's just killing for the sake of killing. And that's a terrifying concept. I love everything that we get out of Michael Myers in this movie, and his performance is warranting of the Boogeyman moniker for sure. So, along with other performances in this movie, the next one I'm going to point out, as I kind of alluded to earlier, is the performance of Donald Pleasance in this movie. Absolute masterclass as far as all the moments of dialogue we get from him, where, I mean, one quote after another as far as lines that people remember from this movie. And he does an incredible job of creating the terror of Michael Myers in this movie. Because it's not, it's not like you really get that just based off of the actions early of Michael Myers. I mean, we see him kill his sister as a child, and sure, that's heinous and all that, but we see him escape from a mental hospital while attacking a nurse and everything. But like, it's not until we really start to hear Dr. Loomis telling the local authorities about his experiences with Michael and what he witnessed, and all of these different things. And he does it in such a masterfully eloquent way that you can't come away from these movies without being impressed by Donald Pleasance's performance.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
For as big as Michael Myers is to the franchise, Dr. Sam Loomis is right there too. Now, and I will say on a little side note with Loomis that I have to point out, because it tickles me every time I watch the movie. I love when he's hiding outside of the Myers house and he's waiting for Michael to come home, and we get some kids that are just out trick-or-treating or whatever, and they're, being fun, having fun or whatever I should say. They try to go up to the Myers house, and Loomis from the bushes is like scares them off, basically. The kids go running, and we get this moment where Loomis is clearly just tickled with the work he's accomplished here. He has this little smirk on his face before the sheriff comes up beside him.
Go in! Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there.
I love that moment. It's just, I don't know why. It's just a little bit of comedic relief that we get a weird peek into Dr. Loomis's, I guess, sense of humor. He just like scaring off some kids. It cracks me up. Don't know why. Moving on to my next major positive, though, and this is one that, obviously, if you're talking about this movie, this point has been covered ad nauseum, but I wouldn't be doing this movie justice if I didn't point this out. The score of this movie and what it does for the film is absolutely phenomenal. And I've got a few moments and usage that I wanted to point out specifically that, for me, just they click. It works so well together. First one I'll point out is the use of our main title theme when Michael is breaking out of Smith Grove. It just provides a pulse to this scene, a driving pulse that adds so much anxiety to what's supposed to be obviously a chaotic moment in the scene, and just masterfully done. The next one I'll point out is the use of Laurie's theme throughout this movie at numerous points. Now, this is a theme that on the surface obviously sounds calm and sounds tranquil, but the more you listen deeper on it, there's definitely an ominous, foreboding tone to this that kind of foreshadows what's in store for this character. And again, just masterful use of music and film here with that. The last one I'll point out is the use of the track "The Shape Lurks" on the back end of the movie. From the time that Michael initially attacks Laurie and our third act, if you will, plays out from there, the use of that track is just a masterclass in tension building throughout the end of this movie. I don't know that I can say that I know of a movie that I feel like the score is so important to it. I mean, I'm sure there's examples that I'm speaking ignorantly against here, but for me, I'm hard-pressed on the moment to think of a movie where the score is more important to it than this one for me. And those three are just a few examples of it, but throughout this entire movie is just a perfect harmony of film to score. So that's a massive positive for me on this one. And then I guess the last positive I'm going to point out is just I love the ending of the movie that we get. And I'm looking at that from just judging it based off of just this as a standalone movie, which I'll comment on a little bit more later. But the fact that we get Sam Loomis, puts 6 shots into Michael, he falls out the window, and before Loomis can even get over there, he's gone. And then we get a couple of shots throughout the movie of different moments, or different places, I should say, and we just hear that breath. So we know he's still there. And there's just something about that ending that I love. There's no closure. Like, we don't know that everything's going to be okay. We don't know what Michael's going to do next, but you know he's still alive. And there's something about the way they do that ending that gets me every time. So, absolutely phenomenal movie, and I'm sure I could wax poetic about more positives on this movie if I really wanted to, but I think about some time constraints on this one, and we are going to pivot over now to, if you can even call them negatives, because you really got to grasp at straws to find a lot of negative to say about this movie, but because ultimately there is nothing negative about this movie for me. It is a masterclass of cinema. But if I have to pick out anything to nitpick about it, the one thing that I think I will say about Halloween 1978 that I maybe could have preferred differently would have been Sandy Johnson's acting performance as Judith Myers in the opening scene. It's extremely hokey. The movie's just so damn good, though, that we just don't care at the end of the day. But if I want to nitpick, sure, maybe a better acting performance there. And ultimately, when young Michael comes out of the house and we see him standing there with the bloody knife and his parents show back up, maybe a slightly more realistic reaction from his parents, maybe. They kind of just stand there stoically staring at Michael as we fade this shot away. Maybe a little bit more of a frantic reaction of his parents seeing their 6-year-old kid with a bloody knife, maybe. But again, this movie's so damn good, no one's going to nitpick either of those points. But if we have to say something negative about it, that's going to be my 2 cents on something negative. But all that to move on here, we'll wrap up a couple of little final thoughts that I have on it and put a bow on this bad boy. Kind of alluded to this a minute ago when I talked about the ending of the movie, but one final thought I have on this one is what this movie could have been like as a standalone film. Like, I love a lot of sequels in the Halloween franchise, so put that out there. I'm not saying I don't want these movies to exist, because I definitely do. I'm glad we got most of these sequels. But there is something that is interesting, food for thought to think about with this movie, about just pretend that none of the sequels ever happened. What if Halloween 1978 was just a standalone horror film? Part of me feels like it gains more gravity from that. And I think maybe that just lends itself to me liking the idea of Michael staying this just personification of evil with no motive. And again, I just like that open ending where, we don't know that everything's okay. He gets away, all of that. I mean, there's something powerful about that kind of a not happy ending of something like that. That I think it's a powerful thought to think about this movie as a standalone film with no sequels. I think there's an argument to be made that maybe it has more gravity without the sequels than it would with them. But all that to say, my final thought I've got on Halloween 1978 is simply this. How in the hell did Annie's dad not smell that weed?
My dad! Get rid of this!
I mean, you were hotboxing this car, literally put it out seconds before pulling up to him, and he's a cop. How the hell did he not smell that weed? Or is he just that cool of a dad? I don't know. Maybe Sheriff Brackett is just that guy. I don't know. But all that to say, guys, this is a phenomenal movie. It's 5 out of 5 all day and twice on Sundays. Don't know that you're going to find a slasher film that's done more for the genre than Halloween 1978. And yeah, it's been a pleasure talking about this one. I feel like I could have gone probably a lot longer on some positives, but hey, that's what we got on this one. Can't wait to look into the rest of this franchise with y'all. I'm looking forward to covering Halloween 2. That is personally one of my favorite sequels, spoiler alert. But looking forward to it. And then once we get through all of our reviews on Halloween, we got a lot of other fun stuff in store for it between our ranking videos for the films. We got some ranking videos for some of our Michael Myers, masks, etc. And probably the most excited one that I'm looking forward to, that I think I'm going to have a lot of fun doing, is it wouldn't be Halloween coverage if we didn't do a Halloween timeline ranking video as well. So a lot of stuff in store on the Halloween franchise, and I'm still not entirely certain if we're going to plug away completely on Halloween all at one shot, or if we're going to dabble a little bit here, maybe jump around from franchise to franchise a little bit, just so we can kind of keep things a little fresh. But again, let me know what y'all think in the comments about that. And if you've stuck around this long on this review, hit that subscribe button for me. Share the channel with some horror friends if you haven't already. Definitely be appreciated. We're trying to grow this thing in 2026. We can't do it without y'all's help. But appreciate y'all checking this one out. Be on the lookout for the next one. See ya.